David Phelps was really good his last two times now. What do you think allowed him to turn the corner a little
It's
bit?
just quality of pitches, maybe getting stronger from getting built up a little bit. Because we were building him up kind of on the fly as well. But it was just quality of strikes he's throwing, and that's the bottom line in pitching.
When you throw consecutive starts like that and you do have very good numbers, what does that do for a young pitcher's confidence?
Well, I think it gives you confidence. I think it reminds you, if I make my pitches, I'm going to get people out, and I can get deep in games and help the club.
Look at Mark Buehrle. He has not had a ton of success against you guys. Why do you think you've been able to get to him so much?
I don't know. That's one of those stats I'm not real sure about, because he's been a quality pitcher for a long, long time. Been successful in the World Series, the playoffs, perfect games. It's really hard to figure out. We didn't score a ton of runs off him last time. We scored enough to beat him. But the Yankees have been good teams over the years, and that's probably part of it too.
The offense is struggling a little bit like they are right now. To have a guy that you're very familiar with and you've had success, is that something that you think it filters into things that's in the guy's mind?
I hope so. I hope it works that well, because they obviously know what he's going to try to do to him. We have guys that have 50 at-bats off him, and we just saw him basically 5 or 6 days ago, so they have an idea.
So what did you hear from Tampa on CC?
It was good. He'll start again on Saturday, 40 to 45 pitches. And I think it's with Tampa Yankees. Everything came out well. Obviously you're curious to see how he feels tomorrow, but he felt it was successful.
Today was just BP, or?
No, I think he sat down. I think in between. I'm not exactly sure, but I think he threw like 2 innings in the
Well, the
thing.
game come.
No, it was a simulated thing, yeah.
So that Saturday would officially start his clock then?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's where he's scheduled to pitch.
What pitch level?
40 to 45.
That's Saturday,
Yeah.
you said?
Yeah.
Is that a line that you start to count at that point when you could conceivably have it
Yeah,
back?
it's getting closer. You're not sure how many starts he needs to get built up, but once you start to get to that point, you can say 4 or 5 starts. He could be a possibility for us.
You're still not looking before the break.
No, I wouldn't count on it, but who knows? Sometimes need has something to do with it.
It's officially a 30-day clock, right? Once he starts it officially.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. Yeah.
So you give any thought to starting Ichiro, just given his history against?
No. We've been doing it this way. I don't think the off day probably hurts Ichiro. Soriano, had an RBI single off him the last time, so I know that's over a long period of time, but it's just a way to keep kind of all the guys going.
Joe, could there be a consideration of putting Huff as consideration under rotation? You want to keep him as the long man?
Well, I think you can always look at different things to do. As a possibility. He's obviously more built up than he has been in the past, just because he has. I think he threw the most 45 pitches over in San Francisco, but I don't think he's quite ready to be a starter yet. But it's something we can look at.
Who's your long man tonight?
Well, I don't know if we have a true long man. You can use Ramirez tonight probably for a couple innings, and then you'd have to piece it together after that.
So how do you think Alfonso has handled his reviews?
I think he's done okay. Like I said, he didn't have RBIs last at bat. I think his at bats off the lefties have been pretty decent. His numbers are pretty good, so I think he's handling it.
Joe, when the offense is struggling, do you spend more time putting together the lineup? Do you try to?
No, not necessarily. You can look to say, does a guy need a day off? You can look at that, but we have days off. We have a day off on Thursday, and then we get into a pretty long stretch after that. But not really.
In terms of reshuffling, do you feel like you have much?
You could shuffle every day, but who do you want me to shuffle?
I love that.
There you go. Yeah. So we'll stick with it.
Many times over the years you've had this type of situation, and sticking with it is generally your philosophy. What is it about that you feel works best for you?
Well, I think over time things usually balance out. It would be different if you had 1 or 2 guys that were struggling. then you had 7 guys hitting 300, and you kept the lineup the same every day. But our most consistent hitters are probably getting the most at bats, is what we're doing. And obviously, there's some guys that we know that are capable of giving us more, and we feel they will. And you just got to ride it out.
If 7 guys hit 300, you probably wouldn't be struggling.
No, we wouldn't.
So when the whole lineup's struggling like this, does Kevin do anything differently?
It continues to work with them, you know, and you look for little things, and maybe if something's a little bit out of whack, a mechanical thing. But I mean, it's because Kevin's extremely thorough, you know, all the time. It's not like he has to do more. He just pays attention to their at-bats really closely.
Should a hitting coach take heat when an offensive struggle?
I don't know. I think he's tremendous at what he does, you know, so I don't think he should. But that's the nature of the business.
Joe, how differently do you manage Jeter from 2 years ago? Is it mostly just, you know, being more cognizant of giving him face off, or
Who?
Jeter?
Yeah, you know, we would DH him a little bit more back then, but you know, now we have really one DH in a sense. The DH we could rotate a little bit before, but it's just paying attention to the amount of days he plays in a row and how long games are, and day games after night games. But I was doing that back then too, a couple of years ago.
How much did he find you at that?
He didn't like it. He never likes it. He'll never like it. He could be 75 and he wouldn't like it.
Carlos.
No, he's not throwing. It kind of bothered his arm in a different place, a little bit, not a lot, but a little bit. So we just kind of shut it down.
When did that happen?
Down in his forearm a little bit. So it happened a couple days ago. So we just shut it down. Huh? No.
So he's a DH for the foreseeable future.
Yeah.
How much does that handcuff you guys?
Well, you know, you'd like to be able to rotate the DH a little bit. You know, I'd like to give Gardy maybe a DH day or Jake or Tex, but right now we can't do it.